My name is Tessa Whitmore. I'm 34 years old, and I work as a CPA in Chicago. I believe two things have always kept people together: showing up and keeping the numbers honest. So when my family started drifting, I decided to fix both. I built a plan so tight you could balance a checkbook on it. Nights in my apartment looked like this: a laptop glow, coffee going cool, and a spreadsheet that would make an auditor blush. Flights to Las Vegas for 5, timed so no one had to sprint a mile at O'Hare. 2 adjoining suites on the Strip, quiet floors, early check-in, real beds, not pull-outs. Color-coded itinerary, breakfast buffer, pool time, a matinee on day 2 so my dad's knees wouldn't ache. I labeled the binder Family Reset, slid in confirmations, and taped a spare pen inside the front cover. Order brings people closer. I've staked my life on that. The calls started sweet and small. My mother, Margaret, phoned at lunch, just to say how proud she was we were doing this together, then drifted toward a little extra that would really make it special. A helicopter tour over the canyon. Once in a lifetime, Tessa. I ran the math, swallowed, and booked it. Then a show at night, front row if you can swing it. I haggled, found a promo, paid it anyway. My father, Peter, texted the kind of thanks that reads like a receipt. Short, polite, empty. Aiden, my brother, didn't call. His wife, Lila, did. She was gentle, almost apologetic, the way people are when they're telling you what you're about to buy. First class would make it unforgettable. We've never done that. I watched my savings shrink on the screen, thought about us laughing under neon, and typed, okay. I upgraded everyone. Just this once, I told myself, knowing that phrase has a way of multiplying. I kept cutting corners in my own life to balance theirs. Packed lunches, canceled a gym membership I actually used, skipped dinners out. Every line item had a name attached: my mother's smile, my father's quiet nod, Aiden's easy laugh when things went his way. I told myself I wasn't spending money, I was buying back a family. By the end, the total sat at $25,000 and change. The binder was finished. Suitcases stood by the door like well-trained dogs. I closed the laptop and felt the rare weight of certainty. This time, we would get it right. Before we go any further, I want to know where this story is finding you. Tell me the city you're watching from in the comments. It matters to me. Because when you hear what met me at Gate C-17, you'll understand exactly why I kept every receipt. I got to O'Hare early, the way accountants do everything, 15 minutes before 15 minutes early. C-17 was bright and clean, the kind of gate where you let yourself believe trips start smooth and end on time. I checked us in at the counter, confirmed seat assignments, asked about the adjoining rooms note the hotel had sent, because even at an airport, I was still tending the details. The agent smiled, handed back my ID, and said, "You're all set to Las Vegas." It felt like a small benediction. I texted my mother, Margaret. "At C-17, I'll meet you by the window." I rolled my carry-on to the glass, where you can watch planes pull in and people become little stories. No answer. I told myself they were at security. Families move slower when someone wants coffee and someone else is taking off their belt for the third time. My phone buzzed. A single message from Margaret lit the screen. "We took a vote. You should stay." I read it twice. My eyes slipped past the words, then back, as if the meaning might have changed in the second pass. I typed, "What does that mean?" Nothing came. Then my phone flashed again, this time a call. I answered before the second ring. "Is this a joke?" I asked. Her voice was cool and clipped, a tone I knew from holidays that went sideways. "Tessa, you make things too controlled. We need this trip without you." I swallowed. I planned it. I paid for— "We're boarding," she said, and the line went dead. I stared through the glass. There they were, as clear as if I'd written the shot list. Margaret in a silk scarf the color of champagne. My dad, Peter, with his hands tucked into his jacket like he might hold himself together that way. My brother Aiden, in a leather jacket he loves to shrug like a stage cue. His wife Lila, with a designer tote swinging like a metronome. Their pace was easy and unbothered. They were laughing. They handed their tickets to the agent at the first-class lane, the lane I had paid to open. Another buzz. A text from Aiden. "You complicate things. This is our plan now." My boarding pass softened in my hand, the paper giving up before I did. I walked to the counter and asked, because asking is a habit I haven't unlearned, if there had been a mix-up. The agent checked the record, polite and efficient. "They're checked in," she said. "They're boarding now." She looked at me, the way people do when they've seen scenes like this before and can't do anything about them. "Do you want me to print your pass again?" I shook my head. "No, thank you." Around me, announcements rose and fell. Children negotiated snacks. A man in a suit argued softly into a headset. I stood there with a document that meant nothing and a window that showed me the truth. The jetway door slid open and closed, a small mouth swallowing people who were going where I had planned for them to go. I called my father. It rang out. I called my mother again, straight to voicemail. I typed to Aiden, "We'll talk later." He sent nothing back. I walked closer to the glass. The plane's nose was pointed toward the day I had organized, and all I could see was the thin pane between me and the life I'd tried to purchase with good intentions and clean spreadsheets. I let myself feel it, not the drama of it, but the plainness. They had made a choice. They had put it in writing. The boarding group numbers climbed. Final call. The jetway retracted with a soft mechanical sigh. I folded my pass, slid it into my pocket, and turned away from the window. There were 100 things I could have done. Run to the desk, beg for reasons, plead for decency. I did none of them. I picked up my bag, checked the time, and started walking. I went home the way you do after a bad appointment, straight, quiet, and faster than the traffic should allow. My apartment was still as a ledger at close of business. I set my bag down, washed my hands like I could scrub the gate from my skin, and sat at the kitchen table where the binder had lived. The chair remembered me, the room did not. My phone started pinging before I could open the laptop. One alert, then another, then a string of them that sounded like a slot machine no one could afford. Casino authorization, high amount, steakhouse, 2 guests, premium cut, spa package, full day, all posted to the emergency card I'd given my mother for just in case. I called the bank. A woman named Claire answered with a voice that could level a storm. I gave my details, confirmed the card, asked for the transaction list. She read them out with the calm of someone who does not make your life complicated, only explains it. "All from Las Vegas, Ms. Whitmore. Charges began an hour ago at your hotel." She offered to freeze the card. I agreed, listened to the click that sealed it, and thanked her like she had just returned something I'd lost on a sidewalk. I put the phone down and let the silence come back. It didn't last. A new call lit the screen. "Aunt Ruth. We don't talk often. When we do, it matters." I answered. "Are you home?" she asked. "Yes." "I heard about the airport." Her breath settled. "There's something you need to know, and your parents will not tell you. Years ago, when your grandparents passed, there was an inheritance. About $750,000. Most of it ended up in Aiden's column." I pressed the phone tighter to my ear. "Most? Mortgage, car notes, wedding, cards paid down. Your mother called it helping him start right. Your father nodded through it. You were working and doing fine. That was the story." She paused. "I'm sorry, Tess." It wasn't a surprise so much as the missing footnote under a page I already understood. We said our goodbyes. After the call, I stared at the far wall where the light makes a square in the afternoon and thought about the parts of our family history told in pencil. I opened the laptop. Old emails came up first, as if they'd been waiting. Aiden at my kitchen counter 2 years ago, promising $10,000 back next month for a used Mustang he just had to have before a promotion that never arrived. My mother asking if I could float the electric bill just this once because rates were high and times were tight. Smaller requests I barely remembered. A phone repair, a suit for a sales pitch. We'll settle up after the holidays. No one settled up. The ledger showed it cleanly. I scrolled my statements by month. There I was, grocery stores, rent, insurance, a steady life built with careful hands. And threaded through it, the family line items that did not belong to me but lived under my account. Transfers, cash apps, airline holds. You can forgive a lot when you want Christmas dinner to feel easy. I had, more than once. Today asked for a different kind of arithmetic. I printed the latest alerts and laid them next to the old promises. The pages made a simple picture: what went out, what came back, what never would. I took a pen and wrote dates in the margins, not for drama, for record. The apartment hummed with the small confidence of appliances doing their job. The refrigerator, the clock, the router. My family had not done theirs. I gathered the papers into a neat stack and slid them into a fresh folder. I didn't know the exact words I would use yet, or where they would land, but I knew this: I would never again argue feelings with people who spend them like cash. From here on out, I would speak in amounts and evidence. I cleared the table and built a new stack from the ground up. Trip receipts, airline invoices, hotel confirmations, show tickets, the helicopter tour, lounge access, every line I'd bought and every promise I'd been handed. I printed the Vegas charges that hit the emergency card after they boarded without me. On the top page, I wrote a simple header in blue ink: what went out, what came back. Below it, I wrote the total I already knew by heart. I opened a fresh folder and labeled it the way I label anything that matters: family, evidence. Each section got its own tab: flights, hotel, activities, card charges, past loans, and every page got a date in the corner. Where an email supported a charge, I stapled it behind the receipt. Where a promise supported a loan, I clipped the message to the top. Nothing fancy, just order. Order is how you make a case even when your hands are shaking. I paused only once to take a photo of the binder I'd called Family Reset. It looked neat and harmless, like good intentions always do. Then I slid it onto a shelf and pulled the evidence folder toward me. The work ahead required a different binder. I searched my contacts and found a number I'd saved after a corporate training years back. Dana Rivers, an attorney who had explained contracts like weather reports. Calm, precise, unafraid of storms. I called. She picked up on the second ring. "Ms. Whitmore," she said, as if she'd expected me. "How can I help?" "I'm not sure how to label this," I told her. "But I have facts, I have receipts, I have a family that thinks my money is a group project." "That's enough," she said. "Tell me what happened." I kept it to the spine: the planned trip, the text at the gate, the charges that began as soon as they boarded. I gave her the numbers as I had them. I mentioned the old $10,000 loan to my brother Aiden, with the email where he promised to repay next month. I told her my aunt had confirmed an inheritance my parents had concealed and largely steered to Aiden. "All right," Dana said. I could hear the soft click of her keyboard. "First step is a demand letter. You control the tone and the clock. We attach documentation, state the amount, and set a deadline." "What amount?" "Trip cost plus the unauthorized card charges. Add the outstanding loan. Round nothing. We'll specify interest on the loan from the date promised. You'll ask for payment within 30 days by cashier's check or verified transfer. We'll note that if the deadline isn't met, you'll pursue civil remedies. No threats, no heat, just teeth." I looked at my totals. 35,000 covers it, I said. 25 for the trip, 10 for the loan, and the card hits within that. "Good," she said. "Send me scans. I'll draft, then you approve. I worked in a steady line, camera to scanner to folder. Each file got a plain name and a number. Exhibit 1, flights. Exhibit 2, hotel. Exhibit 3, activities. Exhibit 4, card charges. Exhibit 5, loan email. For the inheritance, I wrote a short note documenting what Aunt Ruth had told me and attached the date and her name. I did not guess or embellish. If it could not be shown, it did not go in. The draft arrived before dinner. Dana's letter was 2 pages and cool to the touch even through the screen. Dear Mrs. Margaret Whitmore, Mr. Peter Whitmore, and Mr. Aidan Whitmore, this firm represents Ms. Tessa Whitmore. On date, you knowingly excluded our client from a trip she solely funded, then incurred charges on a card entrusted for emergencies. Demand is hereby made in the amount of $35,000 within 30 days of this notice. It went on to list the exhibits, the dates, the amounts, and the method of payment. Interest on the loan was calculated from the month Aidan promised repayment. The letter wasn't angry. It didn't need to be. It was complete. Edits? Dana asked when I called. Just one, I said. Add a line that any future contact about payment should go through you. Done, she said. Would you like to send it yourself or have me deliver? I'll send it, I said. I want them to know whose name is on the line. I opened a new email addressed to 3 people I knew better than they knew me. I wrote a simple cover note, no adjectives, no history, attached the PDF and the exhibits, and typed the subject, Payment Demand, T. Whitmore. I hovered for a second, the way you do before any point of no return, and then clicked send. The room did not change. The refrigerator hummed. The evening light moved a little further across the wall. I set my phone face down and filed a printed copy of the letter under correspondence. My hands were steady. For the first time all day, I felt the numbers working for me. The letter went out in the afternoon. By early evening, my phone lit up with a different kind of notice. Aidan had posted on Facebook a long, breathless screed with my name in it, though he never wrote it outright. Some people only care about money, he wrote. Some people would rather destroy a family than forgive. He dressed it up with photos of airport seats and a blurry shot of a champagne flute, like a travel ad for a trip I'd paid for and didn't take. I didn't respond. I opened the post, scrolled once to clock the shape of it, and started saving. Full-page screenshots, timestamps, the comment threads as they grew arms. Cousins I hadn't seen in years chimed in with soft morals about grace and letting go. A high school friend of his, half a country away, called me bitter. I took screenshots of them too, nothing fancy, just clean captures saved to a folder named the way I name everything. Social, evidence. Messages started popping up in my inbox, some tender, some sharp. I ignored the lot. Then my phone vibrated with a new email. Subject line, let's talk about love. It was from my mother, not a reply to the demand letter. This was her own, handwritten and scanned, the loops and flourishes familiar as our old kitchen clock. Tessa, it began, you are my daughter, and I have always wanted what's best for you. Threatening legal action against your own family is not the way to heal. You have always been so rigid. Sometimes love means letting things go. Please don't break us over money. I read it once through and set it down. When you've seen a tool used enough times, you learn its weight in your hand. Guilt, wielded properly, has heft. I scanned her letter and dropped it into correspondence, then added a short note to myself. Tone, guilt, no mention of repayment, no dispute of facts. At 8, the doorbell rang. The camera by my door showed my father on the stoop, collar up against the wind, hands deep in his coat, eyes tired in the way of men who delay hard conversations until the last light. He looked straight into the lens. Tess, he said, voice muffled through the speaker. Let me in. We can fix this. I pressed the intercom. Dad, I won't discuss this at the door. It doesn't have to get ugly, he said. We're family. It's already ugly, I said, keeping my tone level. Please send anything you'd like to say through Dana Rivers, my attorney. You should have her information. He stood there for another beat, as if a different answer might appear if he waited. I recorded the exchange and saved the file. He walked back down the steps with the same careful gait I'd planned our Vegas schedule around. I felt the tug in my chest and let it pass. Love is real, so are boundaries. I turned back to the screen. Aiden's post had collected more comments, and then a few that pushed back. Subtle, cautious, asking why a sister would suddenly turn so hard if there wasn't more to the story. I didn't feed it. I moved through the thread like a clerk closing out a till. Capture, label, file. I downloaded the post as a PDF, then exported the comments in batches. When someone edited a remark, I saved the before and after. I emailed Dana a clean packet. Social, evidence, mom letter, scan, doorbell video, Peter with a short note. Public defamation insinuations, pressure via guilt, attempted in-person discussion, declined. No contact with me directly going forward except through you. Within minutes, she replied, received, documenting, do not engage online, will incorporate as needed. On the counter, my phone vibrated again. Unknown number, then another, then silence. I set it to do not disturb and poured a glass of water. The apartment steadied itself around me. The refrigerator hummed. The clock kept time. In the middle of other people's noise, the facts stayed where I put them. I took one last pass through my folders, checked that every file carried a date, and closed the laptop. The night was clear. My case was clean. I would not argue with anyone in comments or on the stoop. If they wanted to talk, they could talk to the letterhead. Mediation wasn't a courtroom. It was a conference room with a long table, neutral art, and a carafe of coffee that had opinions. Dana met me in the lobby with a folder under her arm and the sort of calm that steadies a person before a bridge. We rode the elevator up without small talk. I didn't need any. Inside, we took the near side of the table. A stack of our exhibits sat aligned to my right: flights, hotel, activities, card charges, loan email, and a thin memo summarizing Aunt Ruth's note about the inheritance. Across from us, 3 chairs waited. The mediator arrived first, a man in his 50s with a legal pad and a voice tuned to polite distances. Thank you for being here, he said. We'll aim for a practical solution. The door opened. My mother walked in with a handbag clutched high, my father behind her, and Aiden last. Sunglasses threaded through his shirt like a prop. They sat. No one looked long at anyone else. The mediator laid out the ground rules. No interruptions, no raised voices, separate caucus rooms available if needed. He turned to Dana. Ms. Rivers? Dana slid the top exhibit forward. Our position is simple, she said. My client funded a 5-person trip in the amount of $25,000 and was knowingly excluded at the point of boarding. Immediately thereafter, her entrusted card was used for additional charges. There is also a pre-existing $10,000 loan to Mr. Whitmore, with written promise of repayment never fulfilled. We demand $35,000 within 30 days. Documentation is complete. She tapped the stack. Exhibits 1 through 5. The mediator nodded and turned to my mother. Mrs. Whitmore? Margaret cleared her throat. We didn't mean harm. Tessa can be very controlling. We needed a break. The mediator's pen didn't move. Do you dispute the amounts? She looked at my father. He looked at Aiden. Aiden exhaled like a man asked to explain gravity. She's making this about money. Dana slid Exhibit 4 across the table. Card charges posted within an hour of boarding at your hotel, she said. Spa, dining, casino authorizations. The card ending in the digits we've confirmed belongs to my client. Do you dispute the transactions? Silence. Then my father's quiet. No. The mediator scanned the first page, then the second. There is also a loan, he said. I pushed the printed email forward. Aiden's subject line from 2 years ago looked almost childish in this room. Got you next month, promise. The mediator read it, set it down, and leaned back. We can do opening statements all afternoon, he said evenly, or we can get to offers. The documentation is thorough. We broke to separate rooms. Dana and I sat with our coffee and the hum of fluorescent lights. They'll float something small, she said. Don't be tempted. A runner came in with a folded note from the mediator. Offer, $12,000 now, remainder over a year. Dinah didn't look up. Decline, full amount, immediate, or we set a litigation schedule. We waited. A second note, $20,000 now, $15,000 in 90 days. Dana wrote one line and handed it back. Full amount, immediate. She opened her laptop, made a neat list of transfer methods acceptable to me, and drafted a basic no-contact clause for after payment. Another stretch of quiet. Steps in the hall. The mediator returned in person, hands on the back of a guest chair. They're close, he said. They're concerned about admitting fault. No admissions required, Dana said. Just payment and a release. We'll include a mutual non-disparagement clause. My client doesn't want to argue in public. He nodded, left, came back with a printed sheet. $35,000 by wire before close of business tomorrow, he said, split among the 3 signatories. You agree to a general release of claims related to these events, mutual non-disparagement, and future communications limited to counsel for any payment issues. Dana read it once, twice, then turned the page to me. The numbers were correct. The terms were clean. I initialed each paragraph, signed at the line, and dated it. The mediator took our copy to the other room. When they filed back in to sign, no one tried a speech. Margaret's pen hovered, then touched the page. Peter signed without looking up. Aiden pressed too hard and left an imprint on the page beneath. The mediator gathered the papers, made a note about wiring instructions, and stood. Thank you, he said. You've all saved yourselves some time. Back in the lobby, Dana shook my hand. I'll email wiring details and confirm receipt, she said. No need to do anything else. On the sidewalk, the air felt colder than it should have for the hour. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt accurate. I rode down in the elevator, a folder lighter and a future heavier in the right way. Upstairs, they could keep their reasons. I had what I'd asked for, money due, on paper, with teeth if needed. Consequences delivered in the tone I'd chosen, quiet, specific, and complete. The wire hit the next morning. Dana forwarded the bank confirmation with a single line, funds received, and the 3 transfers listed in neat columns with my name spelled right, the way it rarely is on birthday cards. I logged in and saw the balance lift by exactly what we'd agreed to. No surprise, no champagne. Just the relief you feel when an elevator stops at the floor it promised. By noon, the quiet gave way to news of its own. A message came from a friend of a friend, the kind of person who still reads local blogs. You should see this, she wrote, attaching a link. A small community site had picked up Aiden's Facebook post and done what blogs do, dug in. They had screenshots, the softened edges of his edits, and a tidy roundup of public records and employer profiles. The tone wasn't cruel, just curious in a way that leaves marks. The piece didn't mention me by name. It didn't have to. The shape of it was enough. Mid-afternoon, another ping, this time from an old coworker of Aiden's I hadn't spoken to in years. Heads up, they let him go today. No flourish, no exclamation point, simply a fact placed on the table between us. I stared at the sentence and let it sit. I hadn't asked for that, hadn't needed it. But when you light a match to smoke people out, sometimes you find your own fabric burns. Aunt Ruth called after dinner. They're selling the Cadillac, she said, and the little patch of land your grandfather hung on to out by the county road. Your mother says they have to tidy up some obligations. I pictured the car in the driveway, polished like a habit, and the thin strip of property I'd wandered as a kid pretending the weeds were tall as corn. I felt the tug and then the truth. They'd made their choices long before the letter had arrived. I kept to my rule: no statements, no comments, no sidewalk conferences. When a number I didn't recognize rang 3 times and stopped, I logged it and moved on. Dana sent a short note. Transfer cleared, release filed. Non-disparagement in effect. If contacted, forward to me. I took a photo of that email too and slid it into correspondence, not because I planned to need it, but because I like to know where things live. At 8:45, my father left a voicemail I chose not to open, just saved. The file name appeared on my screen with the date and time. I pictured his hand on the kitchen phone, the way he leans when the floor tilts. There are sorrows in any family. Not all of them are crimes. But sorrow doesn't change a signed agreement or the arithmetic that brought us here. The days that followed were quieter. Aiden's Facebook went still, then tidied, then private. Cousins stopped tagging each other in the thread once the blog stopped updating, and a few comments vanished under the weight of a moderator with a job to do. The chatter drained out the way noise does once a door closes. In the account, the money sat where it belonged, not as a trophy, but as a correction. I left it untouched, the way you leave a repaired bone alone for a while. When I walked past the shelf where the family reset binder used to sit, I saw the new folder in its place, plain, labeled, complete. The refrigerator kept its hum. The clock kept its pace. If there was a feeling, it wasn't vengeance. It was accuracy, and the accuracy held. I opened a separate savings account and named it the way I meant to live. Future, not bailouts. The wire settled there, whole and unbroken. I left it untouched for a month on purpose, like a cast you don't saw off just because the itch is loud. The second week, I met with a financial advisor who asked plain questions and didn't try to upsell dignity. We set a slow, sturdy plan: short-term treasuries first, then a ladder I could sleep beside. No heroics. I've had enough of expensive thrills. At home, I did the other kind of housekeeping. I blocked numbers I'd once answered on the first ring. I filtered email from names that use family the way people use coupons, only when they want a discount on consequences. I kept Dana's contact pinned and told myself if anyone needed anything further, the letterhead could translate. On a Saturday morning, I met my cousin Noel at a cafe with big windows and small tables. He brought a pencil and a ruler. I brought a notebook with squared paper. We laid napkins end to end and marked shelves along the fold, sketched a counter where a person who likes paper can look up and see someone who likes reading. We named a little neighborhood bookstore, circled hours that work for people who still have night shifts, and made a list of authors the local school never assigns. Noel laughed at my margin notes, then made better ones. We set no deadline, only a direction. The house got quieter in a way I could hear. I returned the family reset binder to the shelf and set the new folder in front of it, then added one last label: closed. I didn't need to display it. I needed to know it existed. When the refrigerator hummed and the clock kept time, it sounded like a promise kept to myself. Months passed. On an ordinary morning, I rolled a carry-on to O'Hare and stopped by a window because I always stop by windows now. The jetway moved in and out like a tide you can schedule. I watched strangers become their own stories, hands on shoulder straps, a woman counting medicine, a couple arguing softly about a charger. I checked my boarding pass. My name was spelled right. The seat was mine. I thought about Margaret's scarf, Peter's careful gait, Aiden's shrug, Lila's swinging tote, how they looked once behind glass, and how small a person can seem when you're outside a choice they made. I didn't wish them harm. I wished them arithmetic. When they called my group, I stood, felt the weight of a light bag, and walked forward. I didn't hurry. I didn't look back. If anyone asks me what changed, I'll tell them this. I stopped paying for peace and started paying attention. The glass is still there at every gate, but it isn't between me and my life anymore.